go. Yeah, thanks. Cool, cool, cool. So, what I wanted to do with today's stream is just kind of show some really cool stuff that I've been working on that I'm quite excited about, namely poison effects and status effects. So, we're going to jump right into that shortly. Kind of what I'm thinking. Make sure I've got everything set up. Turn the server on in the meantime. There we go. Just doing a little test on the microphone, make sure the sound's coming out nicely. Cool, pretty pleased with that. Yeah, so let's connect to the server and I can show what I've been working on. Maybe we can go and do some fights. So what am I clearing? Cool, so what we've been working on lately is poison status effects as well as grenades. So these are gas grenades. As you can see, a little fuse burning. And we can lob them at things. So I'm pretty sure that they do so much damage it's just going to one-shot a slime. So we need to go and fight something a little bit stronger. Let me make this full screen so we can actually see what's going on. So we've come over here to one of these cacti, and we chuck a poison grenade. Okay, I did no damage that time, so if you do no damage, you won't poison. Here we go, so I did 7 damage. Now if we come and watch, because I'm immortal, so I can't die. There we go, 5 poison. Now every 8 ticks, he will take a decreasing amount of damage. 4, eventually it'll be 3, 2, and then 1. This is how poison works, and when these grenades do AoE damage, you can AoE poison group. And then obviously the poison damage, once something is poisoned, it cannot be re-poisoned, so it won't regain the stack. You'll have to wait until it loses its kind of poison status and re-poison it. So there's a little bit of strategy involved in terms of kind of when you're poisoning or what you're poisoning or what order you're fighting things. So for example there, I hit damage on that enemy. I'm actually incentivized to switch to this one to make sure that I can get some poison damage in this. Well, that takes damage over time. So there's a little bit of strategy involved. I'm quite happy with this. It's been quite a fun implementation. As you can see, you get all your XP rewards according to poison, or according to the damage that you dealt, including the damage that your poison ticks do. So everything is still fairly distributed. Yeah, and there we go. Very excited, really digging it. I think I want to go fight some lightning slimes, because I think it's going to be cool to showcase how the poison is working with good old lightning slimes. Also, I think here you can see some of the new interface things I've been working on. I'm kind of fiddling with this idea of having these kind of quick menus next to the minimap for health, destruction, what'll be faith, and then eventually stamina. So those 4 will kind of be up there. I'm thinking about what to do with this space here, or whether we just keep everything on the right side from a menu perspective. What I do want to do is I want to have the chat box here, like player chat. I think that'll be pretty cool. Do I have enough accuracy to hit these guys? Yeah, awesome. Poison slime behind me. Let's pick up another one. So this is a great way to farm. You can just run up, poison slime, go to the next one, and if they're melee, you can actually avoid taking damage. So this gets really fun, because you can just start stacking them on top of each other. And I'm actually going to get a lot of XP for this pretty soon. This is going to be even better with AoE grenades, so I think I'm definitely going to play as a ranger myself when I finally get around to it. Yeah, very cool. Obviously we'll have to balance all of this to make it reasonable. I think one of the main ways we'll balance it is I think melee combat's just going to hit like a truck, if you know what I mean. I think we're going to have most of our DPS sitting in melee, and then we can use range and all of these other combat styles to kind of supplement it and tie it all together. So let's see if we can get a little damage over time kills on all of these slimes. I think that's actually really good XP. That's fantastic. So yeah, rather pleased with the implementation. If I take this out, what am I sitting on? 44 grenades. Hey, Mr. Paul. Yeah, dude, the clip software was great. I'm just showing I've done poison damage for the game. So I'm running around here chucking gas grenades on lightning slimes. And as you can see, as long as I get a damage trigger, you know, as long as I get the damage trigger, I'm getting damage. Yeah, DOT, bro. So you can farm pretty effectively and minimize your damage with clever grenade placement, because the range in grenades is 5. So as long as I get all of these guys, I mean, look at that. That's a whole farm of poison. Oh, beautiful. Again, I think this is a great XP per hour. I think we're really going to have to balance this. Yes, next step is AoE. I actually programmed some functions for AoE today, but they're not ready. So, not yet. But poison, and I've even got some status effects that I want to show for poison. So like little, in fact, I'll show it right now while I'm immortal with the slimes. So the idea is bubbles, and if I'll just play this. So the idea is like this, and if you have a character underneath, so that's how you'll be able to tell if something's poison. So all these slimes that you see will actually have this effect layered onto them. I've got the effect in game, so I just have to do the kind of wiring, and then we're looking like we're in a good position. So right now I'm just enjoying the actual tests. And these are grenades. The grenades in general I'm rather happy with, so like I like how they look while they're flying in the air. The fuse actually goes down, so if you pay close attention whenever I'm throwing a grenade, the fuse slowly depletes until it explodes. And grenades will be one of our throw to tile items, so any item that is throwable, the player will be able to right click and throw it to a specific tile, which means you can miss. But the idea there is that due to the tick delay, you can also hit where someone is going to move to. So, very exciting. Yeah, distance tick delays on everything. So all ranged combat is with tick delay, all psychic is without. So there's kind of tactical reasons to use one or the other. And then a lot of the psychic combat will not be nearly as damaging for these reasons, but will have other pros and cons. Yeah. So this is very fun. It's also like these lightning slimes are aggressive. I think they might actually no, they are aggressive. Let's just make sure. Because yeah, so they're still aggressive. At a certain level, mobs will no longer aggro you. That's when you've hit the kind of aggro level. So there's kind of a sweet spot whenever you're training, because if you want to train combat, it's easier to deal with mobs when they're constantly aggroed. But if you, for whatever reason, become too powerful, it's also a way of the game being like, hey man, you know, you're too strong. The monsters are scared of you. Okay, awesome. So check it, we got quite a nice little batch of lightning slimos. Also love this area back here with the lightning slimes and the redwoods in the distance. What's quite cool is this is one of the best places to harvest redwoods. So you'll actually find quite a few high level players mining these redwood nodes at the same time, while you'll have some of the lower level players grabbing the yellow slimes. So there's a nice, or lightning slime, so there's a nice little synergy there. And I just get the impression that this kind of little valley of trees would be a place where a lot of lightning strikes happen. So just thematically fits for me. Ooh, am I out of... I am out of grenades. I have copper throwing knives though, if we want to keep ranging. But yeah, super chuffed, made a lot of progress. I think what we're going to do now is see if we can get this poison status effect. I also want to add emissives to the grenades, because I think that's going to look amazing. Yeah, so grenades are consumable. So as you can see, if you look at my inventory here, I've got 32 regular grenades and then 50 throwing knives. So any ranged weapon is kind of reduced in quantity. It's also why they can be quite powerful, because you know there's always a cost factor to using them. Melee, no cost factor, but then you're not getting the benefits like AoE and poison and all of that, but you're getting the straight damage at a kind of cheaper rate if you think about it that way. And then you got mage, where you're also consuming an item in the form of the actuator, but you're getting the instantaneous attack speed for the damage trade-off. So a little bit of things at play. Quite chuffed. Here we got my gas grenades. Okay, so check in. So this is cool. If I go to the projectiles, so I've created these projectile prefabs, right? So so here's my textures. So we got prefabs, projectile prefabs, and here are all my grenades. The grenades look funky. They look like, let me show you. There we go. You can see the whole sprite sheet. The reason for this is I basically have a sprite sheet animator script that handles the animation of the grenade as it is animating, and it requires the full sprite sheet to be on the texture, because it's doing it through manipulating the UVs. But the idea here is that if I set the emissive on the texture, because each of these get a unique texture, so that means all I have to do, so this prefab is using this large freeze grenade material. So here are all my grenade materials. So if I go to any of these, so we'll just start with the small gas grenade, because that's what I've got, so we can see what it looks like, and then we'll do it for everything. And we go, so surface is opaque, render face both. Okay, so we want to change this. Okay, it's unlit as well. So I think if we just go universal render pipeline lit, we add an emission, and now for the emission map, I have in my textures projectiles effects. No, I don't. I was supposed to have the emissive map. I don't have the emissive map, but I think it's the same for everything, so we'll just make it. So make a folder to store it. Let's Let's reveal one of these. Pretty sure all of these grenades use the same animation for the fire. I'm just going to double check with a large grenade. I'll show you what I'm looking at right now. Okay, so we're going to jump into our large grenades to make sure that these have the same patterning, otherwise they will need unique textures. But yep, so let's have a look. Large grenade, medium grenade, large grenade, medium grenade, same pattern. So I'm just going to save out of the medium and then we'll move it to the correct folder. Basically what I want to do is I want the parts that are going to be fire to be lighter in terms of the emissive, and I'm going to use the actual coloring of the fire, which is going to be these kind of orange colors, to help me with that, and I'm just going to black everything else out. So very simple. I've got dropper tool with no continuous, it'll hit everything that's the same color, so if I just do that and that, I'm done. And then I can export this with a new name. We're going to call this, because this will be for all grenades, so grenade projectile emissive. Pop back to Unity. Here's the emissive, drop it in our folder, make sure we got the right imports on it. And then now we go back to our material. Small gas grenade, that's the one we were editing, right? No. I want to be editing this one. Cool, so we set the emissive map to grenade and we give it some appropriate intensity, and then we can test this. Looking a little bit weird, but maybe I make a mistake here. But let's also just drop the projectile in scene so we can look at it. Prefab. It's going to be the small. This has the correct material that we just edited. Let's see what it looks like. Something weird with the face rendering, and the emissive is not doing what we want. Hold on, maybe that's why. I think let's test the in-scene one. So yeah, okay, there we go. That's what we're looking for in terms of emission, because then that's going to give us a nice glow. So we want the glow, but we don't want this strange specular highlight. So I think we need to set our smoothness down, right? Yeah, fantastic. I think you can see a little bit there what I'm talking about. Maybe if I zoom in, maybe let's go stand here and I'll zoom in more. So can you see on this side where we're getting a little bit of glow and we're getting this kind of thing. So this is what I want on all of the grenades. So I'm going to make this happen just by changing these settings. So we go small gas grenade, set the emissive map, bump it up, 8 on the intensity is good, drop the smoothness to 0. This is URP lit, and then we can change all of them. So let's see if it's going to let me edit these all at the same time. Unity, have you improved? I've been using this program since 2007. It It's been a journey. Smoothness, emission, and you all use the grenade map. One, set this to like 8. Okay, 8 might be too high. I actually think it's way too high. And then this one we want to also do that with let's try 5. We're gonna go with 5. For now. Let's see how they look. You okay, Anna? So that is more or less what we want. Obviously it's not happening while it's in my hand, but if I throw it now, I think the projectile is going to give us that satisfying glow, and then we'll be able to manipulate the one in our hand shortly, but that's a little bit more complicated for a number of reasons. Ooh, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Fantastic. I think we're going to go and throw glowy grenades at the lightning slimes on my unending quest to reduce their population. And I actually think 5 was fine in terms of the emission. I don't think it was overly glowy, and I don't think it was underly glowy. Yeah, that's awesome. It feels like a grenade. Glowy grenades. So, I'm going to explain very quickly why having the emission in my hand is more complicated than having the emission on the projectile. The projectile emission is kind of set on the weapon and is spawned whenever my character is doing the throw. This means it's relatively easy. I just have to change that specific prefab and then it changes the glow. Now, in terms of the player character, they are pulling their texture data for their weapon slot from whatever weapon they're wielding, which comes from this from our weapon database. Now, the trick in this kind of arrangement is that the weapon database doesn't, or has got access to these emissive textures, well actually technically doesn't yet, but I have to not only change the texture to include an emissive structure, but I have to change the way this data is being pulled from our item database so that everything stays consistent. It's not that hard. It ultimately just ends up with me putting a texture onto the item prefab that is the emissive structure, and then importing that in the correct place. Because I'm setting this through code, I'd have to set the emission structure through code as well, whereas when it is the grenade, I don't have to set it through code, I just did it by editing the material. I think that's really the crux of why it's different. Anyway, let's throw some glowy grenades, because they're visually nice. In fact, shall we turn the light down so the grenades feel a bit more dramatic? There we go. It's nighttime. No shadows at night, though. I was actually expecting the grenade. I thought the grenades were going to be a little bit more dramatic with the lights off, but take what you can get. But yeah, overall rather chuffed with the implementation of grenades. They roll if you throw from far enough. That would be awesome. I wonder. I think maybe certain grenade designs. Right now, these ones will always stick to the target. So if I'm a particular distance away, um, it'll just jump in. I'll show you here. So if I throw, yeah, it'll always land. The AoE will then obviously just hit the tile next to the enemy that takes damage when they take damage. So there's a little bit of that. Yeah, I mean that could be a fun thing to do. They kind of sort of do that already in the sense that they lurk from the height that you throw them to the enemy. So that's where you're getting that look already. But we could make it more accentuated. It is kind of cool. Would make sense for the grenade to roll a little bit. Maybe have just the last little tail off end of the animation, have it be on the floor. Okay, let's see. Only problem with grenades is they're relatively slow attack speed with 5 tick. As you can see, when I am being attacked by all of these guys, the 5 tick grenades, I would take a lot of damage in this situation, so I think if you want to farm these properly, you'd have to be moving all the time, especially if you're low level. But if you're high enough level, you can just wear armor. I mean, these lightning slimes are not going to do a lot of damage to you. Awesome. Okay, let's return the light. Let there be light. Yeah, it looks better with the shadows, man. Okay, I want to go and harass some cactus people, and then we can add a mission to our grenades whenever we're holding them, and that should also add a mission to gunshots, which is kind of cool. Because basically when you shoot a pistol or a rifle, there is a small amount of muzzle flash, and that's a nice little indicator that a shot has gone off, and I want that to be bright. Here we arrive at the mighty city of Cactorio, a beautiful desert filled with wonderful cacti and some fire slimes, because of course the plague of slimes is not limited only to the Greenlands. I do think the slime is on its last legs though, once our poison damage kicks in. In fact, we can walk away and pick up some damage. Ha. So that's the nice thing, if anything that you've damaged dies at any point, you will get the XP. So there's some nice mechanics like that. So this is quite a fun area because Cactorio is one of the best places to mine in the game, as you can see, but it is filled with level 47 cactusins. Now once you hit level 47, the cactusins will not aggro you. However, until then they're incredibly aggressive and it's multi-combat and they're all ranged, so this is a very dangerous town until you start hitting the mid-game. So if I whack an enemy once and leave and someone finishes it off, I'll randomly get XP. Yes, you'll get XP proportional to the amount of damage you did. So if an enemy were to give you 100 XP and you do 5 damage to it, and someone else comes and does 95 damage to it, you get 95. They get 95 XP, you get 5 XP. Everyone gets basically a contribution. And XP is based on both the damage you take and the damage that you deal. So, for example, if you take a lot of damage from an enemy, tanking its damage effectively, you will get a lot of health XP at the end of the fight. If you block a lot of damage, you'll get a lot of defense XP. If you deal a lot of damage, you'll get combat XP. And every time you hit anything, you get accuracy XP. And that's all stored on the enemy server side until the enemy dies, and then when it dies, all the XP is kind of awarded. So I'll just kill this cactus quickly, and you'll see up here when the XP drop lands, you'll check all the different XP types coming in. Rather chuffed with that system. Like, we need to re-poison this cactus before it's a done deal. See, the cactusins have quite a high defense. I would totally be dead in this area at my current level, except that I have pumped my range to 66, so I'm a bit of a glass cannon with 15 health. But hey, There you go, 84, 42, 42, 28. So you can see I actually blocked a lot, so I got 42 defense XP and I get 28 health XP for taking that guy out. Also, really chuffed with the mini-map. I wanted to also showcase this little feature in the mini-map is that you can see the biome that you're in up here as well. And another thing I'm actually busy working on, but it's not done yet, but I'll show the incomplete form. So I have to go into game mode here. There's the world map. In the maxi map. It's a mini map, maybe it's a maxi map. So can drag it around, zoom in and out. I don't know if it's showing my position on map. No, I don't think so. I did have I think if I start with this activated, it will accurately track my position. Or I think I have to input the position, so it might just put it at the top left, which is 0, 0. But yeah, here you can see the game's world map for anyone who doesn't know. This is the classic Damascus map, obviously re-brought into Jericho. Here's Dockster, which is our boat city. That actually might be a nice place to show everyone next. Here's a little smithy. Little Cactorio smithy. Come in, mine your ore, smelt your bars, craft some armor. Classic video game rite of passage. Let's wear some bronze armor and honor that. There we go. Maybe with the copper chain body. Holding a grenade, styling. Now the cactuses really won't get me. So we're going to take a quick little walk to Dockster, which is my favorite place in the game. It is a floating city that the story behind it is that there were a bunch of Catsen, so these are cat people, traders, and the traders hate the water because they're cats, and but they love money because they're cats. And basically what happened was, as they were sailing and trading, they weren't very good sailors, so they'd always break their ships, and when they'd bring the ships in to repair them, they would never really know how to repair them properly. So what they would end up doing is they would start living out of the kind of beached and derelict ships and trading out of them offshore, because then they wouldn't have to pay rent to anybody who kind of owned the land nearby, and would allow them to kind of do open water trade. And then slowly but surely they would extend the size of this kind of floating boat city, of these kind of boats that are not sail worthy, so to speak, but are good enough for the Catsons to trade from. And that represents Dockster, which is my favorite city. By the way, this is the swamp. I'm a big fan of swamp. The frogs kind of defend the swamp area, and Three River Fort is their little bastion. You can see the Frog King. In fact, the Frog King is quite a cool attack. Let me show you guys what the Frog King's attack is. Let's see if we can poison the Frog King. We'll commit regicide. Let's see. There we go. Whoop! Check. So he has this kind of like water wave attack with a flash. Yeah, it's psychic, so he doesn't need to be near me. But I can get him with some of our poison. Well, actually, technically, I shouldn't use the grenade now. I should use the throwing knife, because, or I should use the arrows. Because what's happening is when he's poisoned, he's not going to get re-poisoned. He's just going to take the poison damage. So the poison grenade still does like impact damage, but the impact damage is quite low, relatively speaking. Fantastic. We just killed a monarch. But he's a frog monarch, so it's fine. I think that's how it works, right? Frog monarchs don't count. So I quite enjoy these massive forests. Obviously these are going to be filled with enemies and mobs at various stages. I quite enjoy the expansiveness. I find a lot of games tend to get a bit afraid to give their players a lot of things in the distance, if that makes sense. Or they'll do it, but they'll always have like obstacles or landmarks in between where they want to go, in a way that, I don't know. So this is Doxa, so this is our boat city. A little bit of a trek to get here, but here we are. A couple of frogman mages hanging out in the orchard out here. Got some scywood trees that you can farm. Little visual glitch where I haven't taken into account the Doxa roads crossing over the ocean boundary. But yeah, these are the boats. They sit on top of the ocean. We can come here and we can actually fish at all of these spots, which are quite efficient fishing. And then in here we have the Docks the Bank plus gem stalls, which if you are high enough thieving level, you can get a little bit of an advantage there. But yeah, this is my favorite place just because I always loved the lore of a kind of boat city, and then I also enjoy the design of the little boat houses. Yeah, you can sit inside them if we want to. Come into this big one. This big one's quite cool because the idea is this is the bank, and it was actually 4 different boats that kind of combined their houses and made this central area where most of the trade happens. And then here's kind of, I'd say, the main gem stall area where you got five spots that you can thieve from. So yeah, rather chuffed with how that all came out. I think what I'll do is I'm going to send myself back to spawn just quickly on the master server. Win always says I'm lazy and said, "Hello Hannah, how are you doing? Thank you for screaming." Awesome, we're back at spawn. How easy is that? Changing 2 integers in a file. And one will tell me I have to add teleport magic before it's fine. Cool, so what are we going to do? We're going to add the emission to our grenades to make sure that we can see them burning while they're in our hands. So the first thing we want to do is I actually already have, if you see in my textures folder, and I go to the items, I've got in-game animations, and then I have a second folder called emissive. And in emissive I have the grenade, the pistol, and the rifle, which all use the same base kind of structures regardless of the size of grenade, type of rifle or pistol, which does make things a little bit easier. Now, the first thing we need to do is we just need to assign this emissive map on the item definitions themselves. So first of all, let's make sure we have a emissive map. Of course we don't, we only have the animation texture. So in our item definitions, I'll go to code view, make this a bit bigger so people can see. Is that helping? No. Cool. So very simply, I'm just going to add a public texture 2D so we have a reference to the emissive. And it's the emissive animation texture, so we're just going to call it emissive texture. Fantastic. Now if we go back here, we need to just assign our data, and once we've assigned our data, we will be able to reference this at any point in the future. So we're going to go pistol, steel, scywood. Do it to the actual pistols. I suppose the notes doesn't really matter, does it? So it's all the pistols get the same emissive, and there is going to be pistol. There we go. As you can see, we've assigned this pistol texture to the emissive here. We're going to do the same thing for all the rifles and all the grenades. All the rifles. And all the grenades. Sweet. So what this means, at the very least, is that we have kind of an emissive structure on this texture. Now I need to make sure, or more accurately, we have the capacity for emission from all of our ranged weapons that have it. We just have to reference it from code. I'll get rid of this gas grenade, it's chilling. And one thing I just want to check quickly is we need to make sure the texture itself can handle emission, and make sure that making sure it can doesn't mess with us. So first we go to materials, player materials. We have one for each equipment slot, so weapons are equipment slot 5. Turn emission on here, turn it to full, set it to 5. Just gonna make sure that if we have no emissive map, that it's not like crazy. Okay, fantastic. Now my next test is if I go just directly select the player. So here you can see how we do it. So here are the different layers that represent the various maps. So we grab the sword slot, which is currently a grenade. Oh, it's equipment slot 6, my bad. So I'm just going to turn this off and whatever. Okay, so there's our first problem, is that we don't want this to be on. We want this to be off by default, but turn it on if an emissive map is present. I think that makes sense. So by default, we're just going to make sure all the emission is off. And basically, when we set this in code, we're going to make sure that we can turn it on. So in my UI control, this is where we handle all of this. So we will open this. I probably need to do a refractor and take the UI control to just handle the main UI and not the player item system, but it was just kind of in here for convenience in the start, just so everyone can understand how this works. This is actually not too complicated in the sense that it's just a bunch of functions. They're not super complicated, you know, we're opening anvils, closing anvils, this sort of stuff. So again, this is not like a cornucopia or a nest of code that we have to deal with. So the first thing we're going to see is we're going to go to redraw equipment. Here we go. What this does is it loops through all of our equipment slots, and when pinged will do a kind of redraw call. This happens every time anything changes. Now you'll notice we're just doing set main texture. So this is a great time to just, because I don't know the documentation offhand, and this is actually a place where I find AI to be quite useful, is just to get a quick syntax for what we want to do, because we know what we want to do. We want to set the emissive texture, and we want to turn it on, first of all, and set the texture and set the emissive parameters. So in Unity, we are setting a main texture. This is how I'm going to prompt. Using this, I want to set the emissive map to true with an intensity of 5. Yeah. Is the correct syntax. Using 86. Cool. Also, you'll notice here, so this is item animate textures at the tool ID. So this is pulling the animation textures from a little map that I built that sets this at the beginning just to give people quick access. The tool ID is the item that this is happening to here, and over here it is the item ID. So we probably should do the same thing for our emissive textures, just because it seems efficient, because then we don't have to fetch the item. But then again, so let's see, this is the textures tool ID, item ID. Here is the item. I think we've just got the full item array. Okay, cool. I'm not going to do that for emissive textures just yet. It's an efficiency thing. I can do it later if we need it. My logic is that most of the time it's not an emissive texture. Okay, cool. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to try and get the emissive map using the item ID, the one we just set, and if it is null, we are going to do nothing, and if it's not null, we're going to set the emissive texture. The next question is, are we only going to do that inside one of these blocks? Probably. Tools are not going to have an emissive texture. Cool, and then here we'll also just turn an emission off if someone turns the texture off. Okay, cool. So, and we can make this its own block. We'll go emission. The first thing we want to do is we want to go we're fetching the texture 2D, so we're going to go texture 2D emission map is equal to items at item ID dot get components item definition dot, and I'm pretty sure we just set it directly in our emission from earlier. Yep, just this one. Now, if emissive map is not null, we can do some stuff. Very simple. What do we want to do? We want to set these three that we got from GPT, because wonderful little syntax helper is going to allow us to not need to read as much documentation. So we're enabling emission, setting the emission map not to alpha texture to that, and then we're setting the color to white times 5 for the intensity. Otherwise, just disable all these things. Fantastic. And if nothing's equipped, I suppose, just to double be sure, disable the emissions, because your hands don't emit. Fantastic. This should now, in theory, pull the emissive map from the texture, from the items that we've set. Most of the time it's going to be nothing. Ooh. Sprite sheet animator. Ah, silly me. So this is using a sprite sheet animator which has a function called set main texture. This is not a standard function. So if I go to this, jump to our sprite sheet animator, so the GPT might also just be lying to me about these functions. One second, so I have lost myself a little bit. We're looking at sprite sheet animator. Sprite sheet animator is over here. This needs okay. So let's make some changes. Okay, there we go. So we're just going to get GPT to give us a kind of copycat of this, because basically the reason we need to do it this way, to make some sense, is, or to explain my logic, is that we are animating these textures using a UV map unwrap, so we need to always apply frame at the end of any material texture change. So the material texture changes are happening through a kind of secondary function. So here we are going to let everything just pull in using the single function, which is kind of just going to be a little bit more elegant. I asked GPT just to spin this up for us while waiting. So now we should be able to just call this in our other places with the texture and the float amount. So now we can go to UI control. And here we were previously calling all of these things. We can just replace this with set emission texture, emission map 5F. Get rid of all of this. And then here, we can just call it with null. And then we can do this. So this cleans up the side of it quite a bit. Hey Shulk, how you doing, bud? I'm actually doing something really cool, and I want to get your opinion on some stuff, if you don't mind. But I'm almost done, so just lost my train of thought there. Yeah, basically I'm just setting the emission texture on our equipment animations, and I think I'm basically done with what I wanted to do. If I'm not mistaken, let's see if it works. Yeah, okay, kind of. So we're getting this little bit of burn and glow coming through from our texture. A little bit weird. It's obviously not supposed to be as pixely, but I'm wondering why it's blurring. Actually, I think I know exactly why it's blurring. This is a me problem, I think. I think I just need to come here and set these point to the UI. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. Check. Little subtle glow on the grenade. And when you throw it... Whoops. Oh, come on. There you go. So, Shark, do you know why I'm so excited? Do you know what's special about this grenade that I'm holding? It is a poison grenade. So, I'm going to go and torment some lightning slimes, because that's been all I've been doing all day. I know I can fight any enemy, but it's just I have a vendetta with the lightning slimes today. They gotta go. Gotta take my frustrations out on them. Poison grenades, here we go. Check. So I was actually saying earlier on stream that one of the things people can do now with these poison grenades is you can poison something and run away, and then you can actually, as you can watch, the damage over time will kill both these slimes, and I can kite them and get some nice XP. Hell yeah. So, rather chuffed. Obviously that's going to depend on your stamina, or what stamina potions you have if you're doing a kiting strategies, because if you're not I've currently got perma sprint on, so I can just run all the time, but I think you can have some really nice fun here in the slime fields. Thanks so much, Charlotte. Really appreciate it, buddy. I've actually been working on AoE, so one of the next things I want to implement is the AoE grenades, which I think could get really sick. So really chuffed. And with this emission that you can see, so this little subtle glow, this will actually also apply to muzzle flash. So I want to test that out with the pistols. So we can try that out now. Yeah, dude, AoE is going to be so much fun. AoE lifesteal. We also, like, ice is going to freeze enemies in place. So AoE ice for all sorts of things. Yeah, so you get your ranged XP based on your damage dealt from the poison DOT. So if you're using a I just found a little bug there. If you're holding a ranged weapon that is a throwing weapon, and then you run out of ammo, and you have ammo equipped, it'll use your copper arrows instead. That was crazy. Gotta fix that. Yeah, so the poison damage will give you ranged XP if the poison came from a ranged weapon. If the poison comes from a melee weapon, you'll get melee XP. However, you can still change whatever XP you get by last hitting. So you can, for example, poison an enemy, get its health really low. Can you see that slime with low HP there? If I were to go and melee that slime, like change to my pickaxe and try melee it, I'll get melee. Yeah, there you go. Full melee XP for the kill. So you can use your stats, which you are higher level in, to supplement your early game training for lower level stats, as it always was in Damascus, but now obviously with the added benefit of the damage over time, poisons, and that helping. And then, yeah, if you have a poisoned melee weapon, and you... Or here's one thing to consider, though. If you have an enemy that has been poisoned by a grenade, which is a ranged weapon, and then you want to last hit it with melee or something, and then you do melee damage, but you don't kill it, and then the damage over time poison kills it, you'll get ranged XP, because technically it was a poison ranged, or the poison was coming from a ranged weapon. But again, if the poison comes from a melee weapon, you'll get melee XP. So lots of fun little technicals for everyone to get into, which is, the more technical the better. Again, imagine this with AoE, by the way. you can build up quite nice stacks of mobs for this sort of training. Oh, Shark, I also want to show you. I can see the speedrun AoE grinding. Definitely not speedrun, but definitely AoE grinding, you know. There's nothing about Damascus is speed, son. Where is it? Here we go. So we're going to put this for when people are poisoned, which I think is going to look pretty cool. And then, yeah, so right now not in, but when the slimes are taking their DOTs, we'll have them nice little. And then I want to do a unique pixel effect for every status. So like Napalm will have a unique effect, Freeze will have a unique effect. And then Win and I are also talking about like adding other damage types. I think one of the things that we're thinking about as well is like shadow damage and you know, some of those more esoteric ones, and then we can tie that into the lore. Those will probably be locked behind quests or some kind of content the player has to do to unlock. Still thinking about it, but yeah. Oh, it feels so good to climb up the hill. Army of damaged slimes over there in the distance. Thanks, Shark. Yeah, man, I'm so excited, bro. It's really coming together, and it's also like I'm just trying to be positive and just do a little bit of work every day. You know, I've had a mentality change recently where it's just like just do something every day. The hard part is doing it every day, not the doing. You know, and it's the same thing with the daily sprites and all of that sort of stuff. So I can't wait to see what shenanigans people get up to. I do need to put a leash on aggro, because right now you can pull things from wherever. So I have no doubt the first thing people are going to do is pull a Damascus Dragon from Burning to Split. But then again, so many people just die doing that. So yeah, dude, consistency is king. Also, by the way, I wanted to ask, what do you think of these little indicators up here? So I'm thinking of health, destruction, faith, and then stamina. Oh, thanks so much, man. Yeah, I think it'll like because basically last time, if you'll recall, we had the players' health and stuff up there. But I feel like your eyes get too pulled between the left and the right. Whereas if you're looking at the mini map and you just put the health stuff here, and then you've also got your inventory and your spells, it's like all the information the player's eyes need are kind of clustered here. So you're getting a kind of cleaner view, at least in my opinion. Again, I don't mind doing redundant information where we have the health bar on the left as well. Yes, right now clicking them does not toggle stamina, but yes, this should 100% toggle run, and maybe we'll make it go yellow if you're running or something, or there'll be a visual flare. But yeah, this will toggle run. We will have quick prayers and quick destruction spells, which you'll also have toggleable when you click on these, and then you know, health is health. Yeah, same. It's like it also I feel like we want to allow people to collapse any of these tabs and borders, and you'll also be able to move them all around. So one of the things there is you'll be able to collapse the mini map aside. So if you only want to see these, you can. If you want to hide them, you can. If you want to hide everything else, you can. If you don't want this little bar, so I think just giving players real control. And Unity UI has improved so much since when we first did Damascus. I think that it's a lot easier to just give people total control. And the other thing is like it's so much easier if you design it with that in mind from the beginning than when you do something without any of that. Yeah, show hide movable 100%. Just design the whole system without show hide movable and then try changing it. That's another story. I'm having so much fun with the grenades, I'm not gonna lie. I still need to show the ammo information in the equipment area. By the way, Shulk, have I shown you the roofs of the savannah areas? I think you might like them. Ooh, I'm out of grenades, damn. Can I equip these? Yes. Oh, fantastic. Okay, cool. We'll take a little walk. So the red roofs are kind of your Dominia biome. The thatch roofs are your Split City area. And then Inlandia and Port Ptolemy and technically the... What do we call the goblin town next to Burning Burden? I forget its exact name. Port Haven, yes. Ah, silly me. That's 100% a reference to Jack 2. I think a lot of the names of places are references to stuff Win and I like, because we're just cheesy like that. Anyway, yeah, check. Here are the green roofs. I quite love them. I feel they suit the savannah area. Thanks, man. Yeah, and this place is quite nice with the in-city yellow woods. Not, by the way, as you can see, choppable trees are a little bit taller. So these acacias are short, so they're not choppable, but these yellow woods are. And I think if we come out here, you can see a choppable acacia. So there we go. That is a harvestable acacia. Oh, thanks so much, man. Yeah, so here's the minimap. Very, very happy with it. What's also cool is we can tweak the colors of this minimap because it's like gen from the tile data. So that technically means it would be possible to allow players to like set up their own colors or have accessibility ones with these mini-maps adjusted for color blindness and stuff. So quite fun from that perspective. Also, I can show you a little bit. This isn't nearly done, but was also working on the maxi map. So this one is gone with the kind of reduced pixel style of the minimap. Yeah, dude, minimap gotta be zoomable. The previous minimap wasn't zoomable because it was literally a camera. Well, I mean, technically maybe it could have been more zoomable, but it was a camera like looking down on the game world. So there were kind of rendering limitations there. This is actually genned out from the base data. And this will then have the names in a kind of stylized manner, and we'll have all the icons inserted. And then also dynamic kind of player positioning, not on the main map, but on the mini-map for sure. But yeah, here we go. But yeah, so it's missing a few things, but oh, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate your kind words, Shulk. You're always so nice, bro. But yeah, slowly coming together, really, really exciting. Kind of just wanted to do this little stream. I do have to help Marguerite with bath time and help put Hannah to bed. But yeah, I just kind of want to do this little stream as a way of showing the poison damage status effects, kind of considering AoE and freeze, lifesteal, and napalm. And then once the status effects are done, that's kind of ranged combat as it was in Damascus will be done in Jericho with AoE added. So very, very exciting. Kind of that's a lot of content because the beauty is once these systems are done, it's just the data entry, and I've actually already added all of the ranged weapons to the game. Oh, that actually reminds me, this is a perfect opportunity. Right before I go, I can show you the muzzle flash on pistols. Sure, I'm wrapping up anyway. Don't get drunk and give out the Damascus rifle again. Yeah, no, definitely not. Oh my. I mean, I think it's good for the story, like the tale of what this game was. But yeah, no more of that for me. Okay, I'm gonna quickly give myself some pistols and bullets. So let's see, steel pistol. What level do I need to wear this? Level 60, fantastic. I can actually. So, and this is 643 and 585. So. Let's quickly change this. Six, 4, 3, 5, 8, 5. Cool. Let's do it. Now I'm packing heat, brother. Now the slime should be scared. Kaplow. See if this works. So I've got bullets. I've got a gun. Nice. Oh, that looked cool. Wow. Let's shoot something a little bit sturdier, so we can see some shots. Slime killer. Ooh, this gun's fast, bro. Pistols are quick. Oh, dude, me too. Thanks so much. Yeah, dude, it's nice because he's like, I always liked how all the Damascus characters hold their pistols like a gangster. So I felt like I had to keep that, but then now that there was animations, I had to somehow have the have the pistol actually aim at the enemy. So I felt it would be best if they just picked it up quickly and did the shot. Oops. Oh yeah. Brings it up and shoots so fast like cowboy. Yeah, dude. Do you know how cool that's gonna look with the cowboy hats on? We can really like lean into the Western cowboy vibes. Can have Brokeback Mountain for Jamie and John. I think it's appropriate. But hell yeah, thanks so much for watching. Thanks, yeehaw, lol. Yeah, dude, Shulk, always a pleasure when you join. Thanks to Paul as well. Shot so much for joining the stream and having a little chat and seeing the progress. Gonna keep on keeping on. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great evening, or evening for me, morning for some. Cheers, everyone.